I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. The House Oversight Committee held a hearing on the federal response to the opioid crisis. Congressman Glenn Grothman connected fentanyl trafficking to border security during Monday's hearing. Border security continues to be a hot button issue between Democrats and Republicans going into the midterms. Grothman asked Dr. Ral Gupta, the director of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, if the surge of migrants at the southern border in April 2022 was, quote, a complete and total embarrassment. Here's Dr. Gupta's response.
Statistics I'm looking at show that 2 Aprils ago, April of 2020, 6,000 people crossed the border and were let in the country. Most recent April were 183,000. So we've gone from 6,000 in an April to 183,000. Do you feel that that is a complete and total embarrassment? How would you describe that performance as far as its effect on what we're discussing today? 6,000 to 180.
Thank you, Congressman. I'm having a little bit difficulty hearing you. I believe you were comparing numbers.
Okay, we will say 6,000 people crossed the border and were let in the United States in April of 2020. The most recent April, that number was 183,000. So we've gone from 6,000 to 183,000. Do you consider that a complete embarrassment? And do you think we have to do something to get back to the policies when it was 6,000 if we're going to reduce the amount of illegal drugs flowing in this country?
Thank you, Congressman. I believe, obviously, at ONDCP, we are concerned about the amount of, obviously, fentanyl and other drugs that are trafficked across the nation, but globally. And one of the things that I think is really important for us and for us to not lose sight of is where are these drugs coming from? How are they being manufactured? And obviously what's happening to the American people falling victim to these poisonings.
Do you care at all? 6,000 to 183,000. Does that bother you?
Congressman, clearly, it is important that we have a robust border. And I do believe that to the extent our men and women are doing their job, they're doing their job, and we need to provide them the resources that they need.
Would you prefer to go back to the system or the rules under which they operated 2 years ago and when you had 6,000 people crossing instead of 183,000?
Frankly, Congressman, I would prefer to go back to a place where we didn't have literally any overdose deaths. And the fact is that we have too many overdose deaths. Over 1 million Americans have died, and we've got.
Okay, I'll give you another question because you don't want to answer that. Given the huge number of deaths, 110,000 from illegal drugs, 12-month period, do you feel more people than now should be put in prison for selling or trafficking these drugs in general and fentanyl in particular?
Congressman, I believe that people who are trafficking, manufacturing, and routing these drugs for the sole purpose of profits need to be held accountable under our rule of law. No doubt about that.
You feel not that people are in prison right now? I mean, we're 110,000. Do you feel more people should be going to prison for trafficking or selling fentanyl than now?
I feel that people should be accountable for their actions. Of course, we have the most lethal drug supply we've ever had in this nation's history.
Right. Are enough people, if we had to do last year over, do you feel more people should be going to prison than now for the 110,000 deaths?
Congressman, I think the responsible people should be
well, okay, you don't want to answer the question. Next question. Do you know what the total number of professionals dealing with addiction and that sort of thing has been, say, this year compared to 10 years ago when the problem was not as bad? Could you give an estimate of the number of people making their living as addiction professionals?
Congressman, I can tell you we have significant shortages of professionals for addiction medicine. That
question. Can you just do me a favor and answer one of my questions? Do you know the total number of people working in this field today compared to, say, 10 years ago?
I can get the figures for you, Congressman. I do know we have significant shortages, but I can get you exact numbers.
Okay.
We've had significant turnover during the pandemic as well. So it
would be. Okay, now the next question. I know people who've been stuck in this addiction from all sorts of family backgrounds. Nevertheless, I feel there are all sorts of problems in our country that correspond with a decrease in family background. Do you have statistics on either people who die or people who are convicted for selling these drugs as to their family backgrounds? Or does anybody have those statistics?
A family background, Congressman?
Correct. You know, what type of family structure? Family structure. You know, we have no father at home. We have mom and dad at home. We have no parents at home. Do we have those? Does anybody collect those statistics?
The gentleman's time is expired.